Check. Morning, everyone. Hi, morning, everyone. Good to meet you all. And very happy to meet all in person and meet in person. It's a completely different feeling. So welcome on this panel. It's been a power-packed session in the last 2 days, and I've seen people share amazing gems and experiences, what they've gone through in the last couple of years, and more so, what it has taught for them to future to unfold, what they would be doing in the future. So I have the honor of hosting this resplendent, frolicsome, scintillating panel discussion. So very happy to host that. And I would like to talk about omni-channel and the way to run it profitably. But before than that, I would want to take a couple of minutes from each of you to ask actually maybe a person story for your brand and how maybe the lessons taught in the pandemic, and how do you see omni-channel unfold this forward. And I have the honor of a good mix having on the stage. There is a platform like DLF, and there are various brands from various categories. So I'll like to start with Kapila yourself. So Kapila, so tell us a story about how this is omni-channel and what is the future holds for it. What's your side of the viewpoint?
So thanks for the question, Tapan. Interestingly, DLF, we don't have a product to sell per se. Our malls, our platforms are where we connect brands with the customer. So having said that premise, I think omni-channel has evolved as a most used and the abused concept, so to say. Every one of us has got its own definition as to how we perceive omni-channel, so to say. So simply put, I would say it's a connection that one creates between a customer and the brand. The customer today is sitting at various avenues, connecting with the brand, be it their mobile phones, which is the most used device right now, your offline stores, malls, social platforms have taken a big foray into this whole space. I mean, there is commerce happening through Instagram and Facebook now. So it's essentially that bridge that one creates between wherever the customer is today and engage, as a brand with them is omni-channel. So be where your customer is today, irrespective of.
So as a platform, which is a platform, and you want to engage with your customers across channels, which is online also, so that they can plan their journeys, on the platform. Is this what you're saying?
Absolutely. I mean, each customer's journey is very different today. And as a responsible brand, I think the ownership and the onus lies on us to make that whole journey absolutely convenient, seamless, and give them the opportunity to not just connect with you, but also to go back with a solution at the end of the day.
Wonderful.
Be it just a conversation, be it just about curation, anything that she is looking for today as a brand, it's our responsibility to give them that opportunity.
Great. It's a fantastic viewpoint. Meetu, I would want to come to you, and what is maybe a story which you would like to share from the pandemic, or how do you see omni-channel going forward, or what omni-channel means to you? What's your take on that?
Hi, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. So I agree with Kapila. Omni-channel is basically any touch point which is, connecting the consumer with the brand, be it online, be it social media, be it a brick and mortar, within brick and mortar, the distribution, large format stores, or the company-owned stores. That's every touch point. What is happening now is basically when we were only a brick and mortar brand, the customer used to come inside the store, have a browsing time inside the store, research within a brick and mortar model, and then buy. Now the consumer is getting into a ROPO model, He's researching online, purchasing offline, or vice versa. So that is very, very important that, we become an omni-channel, and the COVID has actually been a catalyst to get into that you cannot miss online. You have to be present there, be it, social media, Instagrams, or have your own website. Or for that matter, the internet, what you are handling, like where,
Yeah.
where you are buying, you're delivering from the store itself.
Correct.
You know, the store becomes a warehouse where we have observed, like once during the pandemic when I was in one of the major malls in Gurgaon, I could see there were packed boxes within the store, which was actually delivering to the customers' homes.
Correct.
Where the customer is not coming to the mall, you are delivering it to the customer at his own place.
No, absolutely, and especially the way you brought out not just individual online and offline journeys, but cross-cutting journeys,
Of course.
where you can use the store, as a fulfillment point and a shipping
Right.
point. I just come closer to myself, to Priyaranjan first, and then we'll go to you, Jamina. Priyaranjan, what is your omni-channel viewpoint, and what's an online, what's a pandemic story or a future viewpoint for omni-channel?
Okay, so I'm going to mix the two answers. I think it's a 5-word process for us. We went from it being a thought to becoming a reality, to then moving to become a priority, a necessity, and now it's a way of life. So I've chosen to use these words because that's how the phasing in our brains has also been. We've also learned, we've also graduated, and now we are in the process of actually innovating and then cutting down costs even further. What also happened to us was that, as she said, a lot of our stores actually started becoming distribution centers, and now they continue to become or continue to remain key distribution centers in the omni-channel process. We also are driving a lot of efficiencies through our resources. So when the malls were shut, we still had these stores open, and they were acting like cloud stores for us, which were supporting orders. There's a key point on inventory. I think every retailer, any vertical in retail for that matter, inventory management is the key to getting a positive P&L. And omni-channel helped us drive efficiencies with inventory. So the same stock was available across 5 consumers at the same time, and whoever wanted to pick it had the option, which was not present earlier. So I think everything put together, I think it's a way of life for us now, and it's one of the key aspects for us to manage inventory and, of course, connect better to the consumer because you are fulfilling whatever size, color, variation that they want. And yes, it's going to be a strong way of life for us.
That's fantastic. And what you said is the hygiene point and is the unified view of the inventory across all channels visible, so that you don't have enough or any wastage, that is there, or any inventory can be utilized from where the demand is. And very, very important point. And it's glad to hear that in the pandemic, the stores were functional. I know I had this personal experience where the interstate boundaries were completely cut off. People were requiring various RT-PCR tests. So delivering goods from one state to other was not possible. But while stores being omni-channel, it was a great experience for the consumer to get the demands fulfilled. And Jamina, coming to you, Numi Paris, very young, aspirational, fantastic brand. What's your story for omni-channel? How do you see it, and how do you pan it out in the future?
So to give a background, we were a brand which launched pre-pandemic, and I think we became an omni-channel brand purely due to the pandemic. And I think what it has really helped us is harness the power of where the customer wants to shop. Because like Kapila rightly said, today customers have multiple channels, and it's for us retailers to be present there and be available rather than saying, let the customer come where I am. So I think that big mindset shift, which was long needed, has happened, and it's happened in a very positive way. I think most of us were stunned by the kind of results we had in the early days, and the fact that how it continues to grow, the opportunities continue to come. So I would definitely think that that's what the real power of omni-channel is, and it's just growing. I think by the time we leave this wonderful conference, maybe something new has come up, and maybe Ayan is the guy behind it, who knows?
Very, very important point, and especially the way you've talked about that, how the pandemic has accelerated omni-channel.
Absolutely.
And I just in saying in my loose language, पहले stores के business के कारण एक smoke screen थी आँखों के आगे. And I used to talk to many people कि यार omni-channel करते हैं, जैसे कि हाँ ठीक है सोचेंगे. And then suddenly pandemic hit in, and everybody wanted to do omni-channel like 2 years back. And it was from a vitamin became a painkiller like in a phase. And, and now everybody is reaping the benefits, and the cross-pollination of physical retail and online retail is bringing in huge amount of value, as you said, Jeremy. So, fantastic point. And Ayana, I want to move to you. Second time saying it this, I liked your viewpoint yesterday. So, good clarity. What is your take on omnichannel, and how do you, if you have a pandemic story, share that, and how do you see it panning forward?
Hello. Yeah, so thank you for the question. And I'll start with the pandemic and simplify it in like a certain way, right? The pandemic was nothing but a challenge for every brand that we all had to face. And I believe personally, as like human beings, whenever we face challenges, that's what actually makes us grow. And that's what makes us better. And every time we overcome them, we come out better, and we come out looking back at the past, knowing what mistakes we potentially made and what refinements we have with us now that we don't like you carry forward or leave behind moving forward. So the pandemic was just a big challenge, but we, like, and all the brands that came out of it successfully are the brands that came out better, are the brands that came out stronger. And there's no way that the being human that exists today is not better than the being human that there was yesterday. We are much better, we are much more refined, and we are much more determined to overcome any challenge that comes in the future. And that's the part about the pandemic story. When it comes to omni-channel, I think it's very important to not get caught up in the hype of things. Because omni-channel, by definition, is basically a well-connected company that gives flexibility to its consumers. And that, by definition, is what it is. But you also have to like take into consideration how it affects you, like how relatable it is to you as a brand. Like you said, we have like a variety of different platforms and like businesses on this panel, and everyone will tell you a different experience and a different use case for omni-channel, because it is very important to consider how it actually applies to you before trying to go ahead and like embrace it. So I think first is understanding a concept, and then later second is embracing a concept by like how it actually applies to you. For example, taking being human into consideration, right? What helped us through the pandemic is that we have SMU lines that are specifically on the digital platforms. So stores being shut did actually give us an upper hand to highlight those different products and lines that we had. So that really helped us. And more than that, when the customers couldn't come into the store, we were like, okay, we don't want to take the store experience away from them. And I guess this pushed us as a brand more, because you're like, let's be human, let's be considerate, let's actually like see how to like take the store to them. And what we did was we started reaching out to them like through SMS, and then video calling them from the store, so that our store staff could simulate an in-store experience. Oh, I want like this kind of shirt in this color. Here you go, sir. Yeah, it's made from this material. This is the fit. This is what it looks like. This is like the size we suggest to you. And that's it. So then they felt as close to being in store as possible, And then we were like, we should take this further. How do we push like this cross-platform, online, offline accessibility even more? Then, we started to look first at our channels. We have our offline channel, online there's the website, there's social media. So first we started refining each individual channel and then all our multi-channels overall. And then started to look at bridges and how to connect them between one another and truly become an omni-channel brand.
Fantastic, Ayan. And the way you mentioned that it is a bridge between various channels, and if you have multiple channels, multi-channels, and the way you connect them, the way you connect the journeys. And some of the journeys very fulfilling for a customer, like to have a video call from the store and what I should buy. Very, very important use cases, and that's what is evolving very, very much. For some of the brands, like we're doing an omni-channel for about 100 plus brands for about 10,000 plus stores. The ability to connect stores to all across channels, fulfill from the stores, giving multiple journeys to the customer, like BOSS, buy online, ship from store, or buy online, pick up in store, BOPIS, and would be very, very important. Kapila was talking about how, they have enabled curbside pickups. for a lot many more brands, and how the data aspect of it is bringing a huge flavor going forward in knowing what your consumer wants. And during this journey, what I came across is actually I came across a 3-point journey, which we used to phrase as, connect, converge, converse. So connect could be as simple as what Pepe Jean said, that, Priyaranjan said, is connect the inventory. It could be connect to the customer. Converge could be, as Ayan talked about, as Meetu talked about, that cross-cutting journeys between online and offline, mastering individual channels and then cross-cutting journeys across them. And then converse is to actually enable more and more conversations with your customer, who's actually the custodian, who he owns the brand. Though we own the brand, but the customer, the emotional reason is. So again, back to Kapila, is how do you see this omni-channel framework evolving forward, more from a engaging the customer perspective? What is your viewpoint on that?
So, the connection part of it suddenly became extremely important. After both the first wave and then the second wave, there was a lot of cautiousness after the lockdowns were lifted. And everyone was gearing up to open the stores back and welcoming customers. And, we took it upon ourselves not just to create a safe environment, but also we understood that the customer would want to spend a very limited, but a very focused time at the, retail stores. And that increased our responsibility furthermore. So we created various opportunities for them to connect with the brand even before they entered the store. So we have an app called Lookout, which we had launched a couple of years back. We introduced features in that wherein we gave the opportunity to the customer to pre-book their time, to ensure that she gets the right parking at the right point of time, so that, time spent in those so-called ineffective exercises is reduced as much as possible. We then gave them the opportunity to actually browse through the storefronts much before they came into the store. So we created a feature called the closet, wherein, the top trending looks, and please notice the operating word here is the look and not the merchandise. So we didn't show them a pair of jeans, we didn't show them a pair of sunglasses, or we showed them a curated look, so that you know what you want in totality put together. You know which store to go to, you get to prefix your appointments, you go, you even have the opportunity to pre-book, pick it up at the curbside and spend the time in the experience, and not just browsing store to store. So I think that connection that we brought helped us to your second point, which is about converging. In today's scenario, where I think the world has opened up a lot more, our focus is turning more towards, conversing with the communities. So long, it's been quite a long time now that malls have stopped being just a place where you go and shop or a place where you go and dine. It's a melting pot for various experiences, right? You meet your friends, you shop along the way, you enjoy your meal, there are experiences that we curate. So it's a combination of many things. Focusing on various communities so that we cater to each need of theirs. Customizing a value proposition for a customer. I mean, something that she would enjoy may not be something that he would enjoy, right? So how do I, basis the data analysis that I have in place, cater and customize my solutions for each one of my customers, so that their time spent at my properties is phenomenal.
Fantastic.
And then the conversation happens automatically.
And मुझे मतलब ये pandemic में दो चीज़ realize करी कि एक तो सबसे important enemy जो है shopping का, वो है time actually. कि and we can give anything to anybody, हम किसी को time नहीं देना चाहते हैं, and we want to give most non value adding time to least of this activities कि ठीक है जल्दी से बस हो जाए, and rest of the times for a lot things in the pleasure. And the second thing which I realized is actually smile का real estate space है ना, वो बेचारी का और कम हो गया, हमको मास्क भी पहना दिए, चाहे कितनी भी अच्छी स्माइल हो आपकी, कितनी भी खराब हो, जो भी हो, पर आपका स्माइल का रियल एस्टेट स्पेस बहुत कम हो गया. एंड देन व्हेन यू मीट पीपल, इट्स फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल इट इज सो इम्पॉर्टेंट टू मीट पीपल. वी आर we would like to meet people and at least spend some happy times together rather spending that time in non-value adding things. I would little bit stir up things and come to Priyaranjan first. Priyaranjan, what is the Connect, Converge, Converse, and how would you want to take that framework, or anything different that you would want?
I think the key word over there is patience. A lot of consumers have lost patience now, and as the age group falls further below, they want to have a quick experience of shopping. They don't want to waste time. They don't want to be shown things which they don't want. And the moment that happens, and I think Ayan will also agree with me, the whole digital marketing space now, initially the mind share that you would get was about 3 seconds before you'd swipe up and go to the next post. Now I think that has reduced even further, and that will keep on reducing. So I think we need to be very, when you said connect, from a back end it's inventory, yes, but from a front end it's also connecting with what the consumer wants, like Kapila also said. So what they want today versus what they might want tomorrow, and then do that quick study, reanalyze, and then give them something else, depending on what their shopping behavior was. But yes, we need to be prepared for consumers who will, reduce the patience levels of consumers are going to be reducing day on day, literally day on day. It's not going to be a yearly thing anymore.
Correct.
And we just need to make sure that the connect part, as you said, is spot on, because now we cannot goof up and show them 5, or we can't be greedy enough.
इतना working capital waste करने की luxury ही नहीं रही है.
Absolutely. So
कि आधी इन्वेंट्री फ्रैगमेंटेड इधर पड़ी है, डिमांड वहाँ से आ रही है, दोनों कनेक्टेड ही नहीं. कौन वर्किंग कैपिटल वेस्ट करेगा इतना?
And as marketeers, sometimes, at least in the past, we were very greedy. So we would push that additional piece of communication, trying to see whether they'd convert. But now I think that's a waste of money. So now we have to be spot on, and it's not going to be that the consumer is just going to reject the ad and move on and might come and shop again. Now we're in that phase where consumers might never come back to the brand if you keep talking rubbish to them. So we need to be very smart in the connect phase, and of course then the converge and converse happens if the connect is strong. So yeah, I think patience is the word.
Jamina, I would like to take it to you. And you were talking about a fantastic trend from tier 2, tier 3 cities. I wanted you to cover that as well as whatever you want to say on Connect, Converge, Converse.
So correction, it wasn't tier 1, tier 2, it is actually tier 3, 4, 5. And we all know the potential of the non-metros, but I think it really hit us when we went to some of the most elite e-commerce platforms. And today, I don't know whether it's a good thing or bad, but I think it's really good that 8 out of our 10 orders for products with an average price of 8,000 are coming from tier 3, 4, and 5 cities.
This is major thing actually. Yeah. It's a major thing.
I mean, one of the days when the report said Kuchaman city, I had to actually Google and figure out where it was. And that happens for even quite a few other things. But I think it's a realization that demand was always there, and we as retailers went with vanity metrics like metro cities with crores of populations, malls with so much footfall. So we never really understood the potential, and I think even now we are understanding. And what's happened is that this sales has today changed the way I'm approaching marketing. I mean, for the first time, I am telling my agency, I'm not looking at 80,000 hits on the website. Give me 20,000 and 1,000 conversions. I don't want 80,000 and 1,000 conversions. I'm saying do not do Bangalore, Hyderabad, Bombay, Delhi, 50% of the budget. Make it 25. Because there is a market in tier 3, 4, and 5, even 1 and 2, and that's waiting to be tapped. So I think let's go where the customer is. If omnichannel has made us change our channel, I think our media strategies, our marketing approaches, our communication tone, the big English love we have, it's honestly time to really consciously shed all those barriers out.
I'd like to add on to that. For us, it was Lucknow, and all of us in office were a little shocked. We were all focused on Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, and Ahmedabad, and so on, where our physical spaces were more there. But the demand was from Lucknow suddenly. Also, what we've done is now we've started doing connect ads with local celebrities more than doing like a blanket ambassador, and that has also worked for us. So yeah, so I'm very happy to hear that even you guys had the same experience. But Lucknow was the city for us.
Fantastic.
But let me know when you get a Kuchaman city order.
Me too.
Yeah, in fact, I would like to add, the connect point which Priyaranjan mentioned here. during the COVID time, you know, the way the store staff was connecting with the customers, you know, like also doing video calling and delivering to the, you know, the goods to the customer has actually got used to it. So after, you know, the lockdown has opened up, especially for kids where Benetton is a market leader, customers still call, you know, the store staff, do video calling, ensemble looks, you know, the way we sell it. So that's, you know, customers got used to that. So that's the connect, a personal connect that has developed between the customer and the store staff. So it is also, you know, getting back to the old model where there was a personal connect between the store staff and the customer. And second thing, you know, I just like to point out, I think the thing that we were discussing during the debriefing session also, the brands which were present physically, there is a strong need to go online. But we also observed that the brands which were online earlier, now there is a need for them to get physical presence.
Correct.
Like we discussed about Xiaomi as an
Correct.
example. Then we have Nykaa, you know, which has
Correct.
just had the IPO as well, which has the share price has doubled, by the way, now. And the other brands like Bluestone Jewelry, you know, the gentleman
Yes,
who was
yes.
at the panel, yeah. Exactly. So market, if you need to get that market share, you have to be present in both ways, you know, online and offline both.
100%. And the most realization came to me, some of the gentlemen mentioned, yaar, our customer was omni-channel always, or hum omni-channel nahi the. It's time we could, you know, catch up to them and be where they are.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, Ayan, what's your points?
So to me, like if we start on Connect, I think there's always two sides that we have to consider. One is internal, one is external. Connecting has to be internally within the brand also, especially since we're focusing on omni-channel, right? Omni-channel, like I said, is like connectivity between like a company's channels. So like if the company itself can't like internally coordinate online purchase that's returned in a store or a store purchase that's returned online, then you're already failing the connectivity part internally. So that's one is very important. And externally, when I talk about connectivity, I'm really focusing about your connection to the customer. I'm not saying, oh, one boosted ad on Instagram and then like 2,000 people more see you. It doesn't really matter. I rather the 2 people or 3 people that were already seeing it actually feel like I've personally connected to them. That's more important because that's what actually crosses over, like you said, into convergence. Like that's what gets them, and that's what actually said, like you said, like will bring them to buy something. I'd rather 3 people come and all 3 of them buy than 3,000 people come and 3 people buy, because that to me is saying that 2,997 people didn't take it.
No, absolutely, Ayan, and I would like to take this a step further. So on both the fronts, and starting from the marketing aspect of it, what we learned and in the past is you could actually with data predict the next best action, NBA, of the consumer. The consumer has gone through a journey of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's natural by understanding the data, now the consumer is going to land on 6. And there's a good amount of prediction. What we were discussing, and okay, you have data. With data, you know, on top of it, with a cluster of data, you could find out let's say a pattern. Above than that, you can actually see a trend that, okay, this is how they would follow. And then you can apply it at scale. It's not just for 1 or 2 equations, but just at scale implementing that. And I can totally relate with that you are actually able to take the entire brand story where the consumer decides to take on the brand and, you know, consume the need. So very, very important point. And the second point, which I want to take it one step ahead from the Connect standpoint is, apart from connecting the inventory and connecting with the consumer, and internally and externally, what we did was that connecting the internal with the external. I'll give a use case. We had inventory connection, so where is the inventory located? So we understood that this is the trend, this is where the demand will come to. We know what, connecting the customer, what is the external demand. Connecting the two, for example, what is the kind of customer who will definitely not buy? What is the kind of customers whose cancellation rates are extremely high? And you should not deliver a COD for them. Because with a 30% return, if that COD comes back, it is making a loss. So to be able to connect the data and the pattern, shopping pattern of the consumer with the inventory pattern, and then come out with a trend to which customer you should order COD, offer COD, or offer a guaranteed delivery that you would get something for tomorrow morning for sure. And to be able to do that in an entirely omni-channel fashion. So that we could evolve with that, and of course, the way you said, having conversations with the brands going forward. So that's a fantastic way to look at it. Oh, back to you. You were saying something.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add on to what you were saying. So I think it's important to also understand with omni-channel, you don't need to onboard new customers. Because even if your existing customers have a more comfortable experience, feel more embraced, and feel more at ease, like the second they want to buy something, or I want to buy a shirt from Being Human is at that click of your fingers, and it's there. And then when you realize, oh, I want to return something, it's also there. And you can choose any outlet you want to choose. And the thing is, when your customer feels more welcome, feels more cared about, feels more loved, feels like they want to be with you, right? Then you can convert the customers happy. And when the customer is happy, the customer spends more money, So that's the thing. So I was like, even without actually onboarding any new customers, omni-channel can also lead to more profitability with the existing customers that are there, because they are happier and they feel more welcomed.
Very true. And Jamina was sharing with me an example how by seeing the price patterns, they decided to, evolve. And what's your take on that, Jamina?
So I think very much like brick and mortar retail, where we would have either metro-wise or grade of stores or grade of malls kind of business, we are seeing that happening because today Numi Paris currently as an omni-channel is present with its own stores. It's there in optical chains, top 200 optical chains in India. We are available on 4 of the best e-commerce platforms. We are going to add a lot more other channels. And we are clearly seeing a difference in the kind of product and price point that is selling. Whether it's in the retail store, whether it's in our stores, or even in the e-commerce channels. Even in e-commerce channels, an Amazon and a Myntra do not behave the same way. A Myntra and a Tata Click do not behave the same way. And which is where the next season's merchandise, when we come to Spring Summer 22, we are really going to look at lowering a few price points at certain channels, maybe online, certain portals, and at our stores, and drastically taking up, almost doubling our last price point at some other portals and some other stores. So I think that is where you really need to converse with your customers, understand the kind of sale, and really give them the right product, because there are customers at multiple product points, and it's for you as a retailer to maximize that as much as your brand wants to take. I mean, obviously, we will not become a value brand. We'll continue being a luxury brand, but can I have more product at the bridge to luxury price for the entry-level customer, and the guy who is buying much higher price points also deliver to him and maximize my value from him? So that's something we are doing ongoing, and that's also an aspect of conversation and not just analysis of your sales.
Correct. And Meetu, we were talking about, like Jamina was saying, the look-alike audience. While they are able to understand that, okay, this is the price point customer is transacting on, and they can maybe introduce products at a higher price point or at a lower price point. You want to add something on what could be the possible more further benefits, on more conversations, and how you could do a predict a next best action for the customer? Predict a next best action for the customer?
So basically, when you talk about the price points, the customer in an omni-channel presence, a customer would be willing to pay a higher price when a person is going physically, like a touch and feel. But when you are shopping online, you will rather go for a more basic, something which is more safe, and something which is like a core product. That's how the customer will be actually going forward. So when we are actually going online, we are also focusing on having a specially curated line for the online channel, which will not be available offline, which will be only available online, but that too at full price.
That's a different trend than the current trend now, because a lot of people now are powering all the assortment, but definitely it must be having its merits and business benefits. Priyaranjan, you want to add something?
So I've worked with a few brands and we've always been, at least I've been in that digital journey with them. I have never ever seen a brand which has quoted less than 30% returns. Yeah, it could be 25, 30, or, and it's been a period of time, right? It's been about 7, 8 years. So what that tells us is no matter how much, we make the process more intelligent, we feel that we understand what the consumer is going to do. If we were on point and if we were doing it, that 30% would have now been somewhere around 12, 15%, right? But what has happened is because we evolve, the consumer is also evolving that quickly, right? So when you said the whole COD bit and when you said returns for that matter, whoever is cancelling their order, I think that is now the part where we are also trying to innovate and get deeper and understand whether we should show them a product which is on discount, off discount. That is the first one, the most basic one. Then COD, non-COD. And then also then get into jackets worth say 4,999 and above, denims worth 3,999 and above to something which is at entry point. But the customer is always one step ahead. So that is one thing that you should always carry with you when you're looking at it. Although you can do everything that's possible, but you also have to understand that they are also evolving quickly and you need to be there. If not ahead, at least be there.
Yes, and just to add a couple of points there, Priyanjan, what I seen is the cancellation rates, okay, 30%, but then a lot, and I saw it come down to 5%, quoting publicly. Reason, they were factors. When you deliver from store, you have a promised delivery of a shorter time period because you're not taking 5 days, 6 days to deliver the product. The customer gets lesser time to think and the cancellation rates, 0.1 goes down. That's number one point. Second reason is when you're delivering from store, it's a local delivery. Logistics cost possibly is 35%, 40% of the warehouse logistics delivery cost. So your cancellation rate, even if it's a high, the cost is optimized by 66%. So your P&L automatically becomes healthier. And the last very hidden secret point is your stores remain fresh. There is no old stock merchandise in your store.
But that's also because of the NBA that you mentioned.
Yeah.
It's how, we often talk about KYCs, knowing your customers. But very less do we actually delve deep into this forever evolving customer and saying, understanding your customer. So you brought out that point of the next best action is, once you start studying, as humans, we are all slaves of patterns, right? Once the kind of, and everybody, all marketers, we love talking about data and then, big data analysis. But what it really brings back is the key insights. You start dividing customers into cohorts. There are community-driven customers. You know how their patterns are. And that's the next step. Once after, the analysis of how they've been behaving historically, you start devising customized communication towards them.
Very true.
And that's your lookalike, right? There's no point saying, hey, I'm sitting on millions of data and I will just blindly lookalike them on social media. We are achieving nothing. But basis this analysis on the pattern spending, you customize your offering to them and your, not just your return days, but I think your ticket sizes start increasing.
Very true. जब आपने जो KYC वाला point बोला था ना, तो जैसे किसी ने महाभारत के लिए बोला था कि कौरवों और पांडवों में difference ये था कि कौरव followed the rules in the letter of it. KYC का document ले लिया हमने. We know our customer. And Pandavas maybe follow the rule in the spirit of it. They understood what is required in the time.
And the moment you understand, that's when the ownership starts coming in.
Emotion
so understand
comes
your
in.
customer and own them emotionally.
Correct.
Everybody connects on that level.
Correct. And it's such a feel. Like we were just talking about that there are 3 kinds of decisions. One is, a functional decision. You functionally decide ki, haan, theek hai, I need something. You economically decide ki, theek hai, I need this in this budget. And then you emotionally decide ki, yaar, ye mujhe ye chahiye. And that could not be just a factor of money. And I was giving this example to Kapila that, let's say my father used to apply a certain aftershave. And I would emotionally follow that ki, yaar, I like the smell of it because it reminds me of my father. It's not about the brand. It's an emotional decision. In the same way, platform like yours, memories are created there. And these memories are forever. And there is one word which I hope more and more brands use lifetime value of the customer, LTV. Everywhere I had been in the past discussing omni-channel, they would talk about, "Arey, cancellation rate hoga, isko kyun kare?" Sir, lifetime value. For example, a Pepe jeans, possibly somebody would wear for 30 years, 35 years, being human. They would relate with it across the age group. They would come back to it. So LTV becomes so high. For a Numi Paris, LTV can be forever. So, so LTV should be very, very important measuring criteria, and like you've said, to have the conversations there. Ayan, we want to get some gems from you as well. That how much more LTV should be used as a barometer for developing omni-channel.
So when it comes to LTV, right, for a brand to actually get to connect with the person's, like their consumers' emotions, I think the first step is for the brand and the consumer to first understand each other. Like there has to be a clear communication of what the brand stands for and what the brand represents. Like you said, being human is something that people can wear all their lives, right? But that's because what does being human stand for? What are the values of being human? The values are love, care, share, hope, help, and joy. These are things people tell you all your life. These are things you give all your life or want all your life, right? You always want someone to love for you, care for you, share with you, help you, give you hope, and then it's the joy of all of these things that actually make it. So as long as people understand that, there's always going to be an emotional connection. And whenever we have that emotional connection, even things like you said, you buy an aftershave because it reminds you of your father, right? The brand could remind you of a purpose, a message, an action that someone did towards you, a time when someone helped you, a time when someone gave you hope. Because at the end of the day, we want you to look good and do good, right? With every purchase, you're actually making a difference. And you actually say you stand for something. So when the consumers understand that and we can perfectly communicate that, that's when that emotional aspect is really heightened. And then where we can both get the most out of each other. Because when they wear it, they feel it. They feel that I represent these things. And that's the main satisfaction they get. And that's why they'll keep coming back for life.
100%, and very well put. And I can relate with it very specially with India. India, as we all know, 65% of the country of the population is below 35 years of age. So our propensity to consume, our intention to consume is so high. And we're going to experience these feelings and relate with the brand for decades and decades to come. So I want to summarize this panel before I take any audience questions with a couple of questions on crystal ball gazing. That how do you see omni-channel pan out in the next decade, and what would be the 2-3 important points on that? Priyaranjan, first starting with you.
I think I answered it at the beginning. It's a way of life, and we need to evolve every day. So for us, it was a thought starter about 2 years back, and now it's a way of life. It's going to get stronger and stronger in terms of mind share, at least from the retailer side.
I think what we discussed about, as I'm heading the retail excellence, so I know that, retail is all about pampering the customer. In the omni-channel, in the online channel, from pampering, we actually got into spoiling the customer, by actually, having an open return policy, 30 days, 7 days, whatever it is, giving discounts to the customer. So for us, I think it's very important that in the next decade, how do we actually, bridge that gap? Especially in terms of, the discounting, because that actually hits the profitability, which is also one of the, points that is covered in the topics. So that's a very, very important thing that we need to look at. From a pampering to a spoiled child, the customer that has become, how do we actually control that? Which actually Priyaranjan also, brought up the point yesterday in the discussion, where the customer is at the store, looking at the app and, looking at the full MRP product in the store, and when you look at it on the mobile, it's showing a 40% or a 50% off. And there is a hidden coupon also when you exit.
And
So,
I have exactly done that, and just allow me to tell us 30-second story. We run our own marketplace, now.com, and we have Arrow, US Polo, these brands on the market. So I went into, without my badge and all, I went into the Arrow store, and I said, yeah, I want to buy this jacket. He showed me the jacket. It is fulfilled from store. So I said, then I went to now.com in front of him. I said, यहाँ पे तो यार 40% डिस्काउंट की मिल रही है, मैं तुझसे लूँ कि ये now.com 40% डिस्काउंट से लूँ? So he said, सर आप वहाँ से ले लो. I said, okay. मैंने कहा तेरे इंसेंटिव का क्या होगा? तो बोले सर मुझे पैकिंग पे भी इंसेंटिव मिलता है. It's not a worry.
डिस्काउंटिंग का क्या होगा?
डिस्काउंटिंग का वो डिस्काउंटिंग जो है वो टैकल हो सकता है. वो स्टोर में भी EOSS चल रहा था, वहाँ पे 30% था.
But
वहाँ पे
as a customer, where does your loyalty sit then?
my loyalty sits with the brand. For me, what I've seen a very, very definitive change is the shift between NSM, OSM mix, new stock merchandise, old stock merchandise. Earlier there was a trend कि online पे सिर्फ old stock merchandise बिकता है. Then suddenly it had to be made available. People wanted it कि यार pandemic है, I want it online, I can't give time. मेरे पास वक्त नहीं, पर मुझे use तो वही brand करना है. And I know the size fits. For example, let's say Levi's 511. Levi's 511 जो पहनता है वो Levi's 511 पहनता है, whatever that. So they will buy it, whatever is the channel. So the NSM, OSM mix, and couple of factors like you talked about, profitability, the tightening on the 4 pillars, the way you market, 2 minutes more, the way you market, targeting, outcome. Second, the way you optimize the logistics. Third, operations. And fourth is the technology with the inventory unification and all that. So you want to add a few points, and then there is still time. I'm in my deadline.
So I think as a closing point from my side, it would be that, any retail, and there's a reason why we've always, since generations, called retail as a therapy. Be it irrespective of the platform, whether it's offline, online, they both complement each other, both here to stay. I think net, everything boils down to the experience that as a brand, as a platform, we are offering to the consumer, how well we are able to connect with them more as a solution than as a cumbersome process. So convenience at the end of the day, especially for today's customer who's pressed on time, and you rightly said, we will give anything but our time today. So I think that experience clubbed with convenience will be the key. Technologies will keep coming, keep going, but one thing as marketeers, we should always remember, and that's the thumb rule that I work with, use technology as an enabler, not as a checkpoint. Not because it's new and it's there, we should have it.
correct.
If it's enabling us, if it's, making my customer's life, adding some sort of a value, both to the customer and back to me, because it needs to make business sense also, have it then. Otherwise, it's okay.
I was talking to an ISB professor, and when I said, this is about digital marketing, he said, what do you mean by digital marketing? Was there an analog marketing in the past? Marketing is marketing. Technology will come and go, rightly said.
So I think I kind of agree with Kapila, and I think what's really going to be important is having your ear to the ground and being attentive to the customer and changing as the customer changes. And like she rightly said, I think the biggest challenge today I face is how do I get the younger team members to look at customers as being humans versus being just customers and numbers. And we have to really wait for humanizing the AI and data analytics. And if you have a time, I just want to share a short thing which happened with me personally as a customer. A very loyal big basket buyer, the BB Daily, 20 out of 30 days in a month, hardly ever any returns, etc. Come the second lockdown, their data analytics is still working on the pre-lockdown thing. They were not delivering everything because there were massive, we all know the supply chain challenges. And every time I mark something for return, by day 3, I was getting feedback like a blacklisted customer. Because somebody forgot to tell the AI engine that we are not delivering, and hence this customer who otherwise never returned or said, refund because you haven't delivered, is asking every day because you are not delivering every day. And it really hit me that how we are just going by numbers, but not really taking into account the on-ground situation, the reality of your business, and why has your customer changed? Couldn't somebody just think that? And which is where humanizing the data is going to get very critical as we get data dependent.
They see you as more as a number, a customer number, and not as the person behind that.
Like I said, that's the challenge I have for the younger people in my team who actually haven't worked the market like we've probably worked 20 years back.
Yeah. Ayan,
Yeah.
crystal ball gazing.
Huh?
Crystal ball gazing.
Yeah. No, so actually I had the pleasure of sitting in Mr. Nagesh's masterclass yesterday. And there's something he said that like really resonated with me and stuck with me. And he said, you know, it starts with the employees and then it gets ultimately to the consumers. So like if you want a happy consumer, you need to have a happy employee, because a happy employee is a motivated employee, and a motivated employee is the employee that's going to like take ownership and make a comfortable experience for your consumer. And he also said that if you start with saying, oh, no, how was the panel like today? It's a very like corporate kind of question, right? But I say, how was your morning like today? You know, was the journey here okay? Okay, how was the panel? That is what like the main focus should really be, because once you feel like comfortable, you feel welcome, you feel like you're a part of the team, part of the family, then you do more to like make everyone else who's part of the family feel the same way. And again, about the omni-commerce, sorry, the original question before.
No, it's a good point. It's a fantastic.
Yeah. And the omni-commerce you said, is it going anywhere? I think anything that makes the consumer's experience easier, smoother, faster, less stressful, you know, less headaches, clearer communication, will never go anywhere. Because if I can tell my consumer, say there's an online purchase and there's an error, and I have to try 2-3 more times and I get an error, as opposed to I try once, I get an error, and suddenly the consumer service bot goes, hey, seems like you have an issue. This is what it seems to be. And if there's any more, please try again. And if anything happens, we're here for you, please contact us. What does it say to the consumer? It's not saying, oh, figure it out. It's saying, we're here.
No, and a couple of points, data helps a lot. For example, there was an experience with a credit card company. You say, okay, God forbid somebody's wallet got stolen, they have to cancel the card. But let's say the agent reminds you that, hey, you know, your subscription fee of your gym and your telephone bill is going to go after 3 days. So please don't forget to change that. Otherwise, you know. So those aspects of the data helps you and goes a lot for retail, omnichannel as well. I think so. What I'm very happy with is that the world is talking more omnichannel together, and it's a dominant discourse. And together, we are seeing the need to be omnichannel for an omnichannel customer. Thank you very much for the fantastic discussion, for sharing your insights, personal stories, you know, numbers. If there are a couple of questions from the audience which you would like to ask to the panel, please, most welcome.
Hi. Hi. First of all, thank you so much for this session. And my question is, when do you decide to build your own omni-channel platform rather than outsourcing it? Because both of them have pros and cons. So what do you think? Because the omni-channel platform, if you're going to outsource it, it has its own risk. So yeah.
Can I take you? So there is a certain speed of execution which is required now. Unfortunately, people want to do omni-channel now. Building an omni-channel platform now without taking into consideration the experience aspect of the customer, you could lose a lot of time. It's a good idea to look at what is available in the market and see whether it matches your journeys, point one. Point two, on the risks, there are aspects of compliance like SOC 2 Type 2 compliance, which provides you whether the data aspect of it is foolproof or not. There are also other compliance aspects. You can see that a coverage map of the various journeys that you would want to see with the customer, and then make a quick decision. That would be my recommendation.
The only thing I would like to add here is today with the explosion of technology and solutions, whether you like it or not, you'll have to keep a hybrid model of certain key elements in-house, outsource what is needed, and the reality of outsource also is it's not a one-size-fits-all, you know, it's not one person who's able to give it all. So you will have to keep an open mind and keep a hybrid and, you know, work with all the possibilities and all the opportunities that are coming.
We'll take one more question. There was a question there.
Hi Tapan, this is for you. See, like in number of sessions we have attended and everybody is talking about benefits of omni-channel, right? There's a lot of, say, like a convenience to consumer, increase of sales, freshness of shelves as well as the LTV also, right? Uh, Even these with a lot of benefits, everybody knows that, but a lot of brands are not till date omni-channel. What's hold them back? What the baby steps should they take? And I would like to know these panelists also what they have done to become an omni-channel. I think it will be great for the other brands also to have a knowledge from them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So from my side, sir, what I feel is the viewpoint of LTV for creating the omni-channel initiative, we should have this very clearly as number one spot in mind. Second spot we should have in mind is that it should not be a silver bullet approach that I would do all channels, I will fix the RTO as well, return percentage should be low, I should become profitable in the first quarter only. That will never happen. They should keep a reasonable horizon. It should not be a silver bullet approach. And you will have to start, because there is no other option. There are more than 700 million internet connections in India in a population of 1.38 billion people. This is going to expand. So I would say start ASAP and keep an LTV approach, and other brands can add what are the steps which they take and which will be the last. Yeah, Ayan.
Hello. Oh, okay, sorry. I think even what I briefly covered before is for each brand, right? Like omnichannel is a buzzword. What you really need to focus on is the channels you already have and how you can connect them to one another to benefit your consumers specifically. Now, how we do that and how you do that could be completely different. But at the end of the day, the goal is to make it more convenient for your consumer.
We have to wrap up because we have a timer which is showing red. And we can take questions outside, but we have very strict instructions to wrap up. And I would like to talk to you also.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for our wonderful panel for giving us those deep insights into our subject.
I want to thank all the audience to patiently listen to me, and I want to extremely thank all the panelists for sharing the knowledge and the gems. Thank you.